my name's Georgina and this is my YouTube channel where every week I'll be talking about what's been going on or important matters such as politics, economics, sociology or humanitarianism. This week obviously the biggest thing that went on was the general election, and now we have 5 more years of tax cuts, public spending cuts, austerity and poverty by the Conservative government. First we had 5 years before and somehow we managed to get through it, and now that 5 years is being turned into a decade of it, and I'm not sure if we will be able to get through that, because I'm not sure how we as a country allowed the Conservatives to get in again when there were so many campaigns against the Conservatives, such as, I know, John Major, the ex-Tory PM, coming out and saying that David Cameron was not good for the country, that he ruined it and that he shouldn't get in again. And there were campaigns for Labour, such as Russell Brand, who's for most of his life has been not voting, has told people not to vote because he didn't think there was anyone worth voting for. And then he spoke to David Miliband and he changed his mind, saying that we should vote for Labour because Russell Brand saw that Labour was the party who was working for the people of Britain, the majority of them, who listened to us and who would set us on the right path to a fair and equal country. And especially in a time of such uncertainty, like economic uncertainty, like social uncertainty, and UKIP, who I'm glad did not get in. I didn't think they would, but there was obviously a lot of support for them, and they took advantage of that uncertainty and blamed it all on the immigrants. And I do realise that immigrants are a problem and they do put a strain on things, but there are lots of ways to deal with that other than just evicting them, because it's said that immigrants bring in about £2 billion a year to the economy, and most immigrants who are here are either asylum seekers or skilled labourers. They're not just people coming and scrounging off our NHS, they're not just people coming and scrounging off our benefits. Most of the people who are on benefits are English people, exploited by their employers, exploited by the financial industry, exploited by big time corporations, and because they're paid such a low wage by their employers, which Labour wanted to raise the minimum wage, because they're paid such a low wage, they're forced to live on benefits to survive. And it's said that a cleaner would earn, if he worked 300 years, he would earn the same as his boss would in 1 year, and that massive difference, that massive inequality is not fair. And obviously there are going to be rich people, there are going to be poor people, no one's ever going to be exactly equal, but the massive difference and how the employers exploit their workers is not fair, especially when the employers raise their wages so high but not their workers, because apparently if the bosses' wages are higher, then it puts up the value of the company. It's false, that doesn't, they're just taking advantage of it. And obviously that's all due to banks being deregulated. They're not supervised, they're not obviously watched to make sure that they're not getting up to any illegal activity, then that they're not exploiting people, which Labour would have come in and done. So, and when I talk to people, obviously most of my friends, most of the people I know, obviously like UKIP or Conservative, and UKIP and Conservative, people vote for them because they read the Daily Mail, they read the Sun, and they think that everything that they read is true. But the biggest argument against Labour is people are like, they got us into debt. They got us into debt because of a Tory mistake where Margaret Thatcher deregulated the banks, and those deregulated banks committed illegal activity, committed fraud, and they spent millions and millions and billions of pounds trying to build more profit, and that obviously caused them to crash, and we had no choice but to bail them out, because otherwise, well, I think I have about 10,000 in my bank account, my sister has about 20, my mum probably has about 50, that's about £80,000, and all of that money would have been lost. Our life savings would have been lost if Labour had not bailed out the banks. And people blame Labour because they were in at that time, but if any party that was in, Green, UKIP, Conservatives, any party that was in that time, they would have done the same thing because they had no other choice. Also, another thing where people say Labour are going to get us into debt now, actually Conservatives built up a bigger deficit in 5 years than Labour did in 15. Labour wanted to spend more on obviously on the public services and things, but they weren't going to borrow loads. They were going to get the money from the mansion tax, and I'm obviously very disappointed that the Conservatives got in, because I think obviously they're going to ruin our country. Public services, people should not have to pay for the right to be healthy, for the right to live. That is one of our human rights, and we should not have to pay for it. We should not have to pay for education. We should not have to pay for the right to go to university. Like, these should all be free things, and at least if Labour got them in, they wouldn't have privatised the NHS. They would have decreased the university fees. Obviously, I don't think there should be university fees at all. Obviously, they have to start small and get and carry on from there. Like, I know that obviously if Labour would have gotten, nothing would have been solved like in a day. It would have taken like a long time, and it would have been like a step on the road to the right direction. But obviously I'm so disappointed and devastated that Conservatives gotten in, because I know that I will be alright. I'm not obviously so poor that I can't afford education fees, I can't afford health if it comes to it. But my worry is for the people who can't, for the poor people, the working class, who rely on the NHS, who rely on free education, and I don't see how they're going to get any of that if the Conservatives stay in. Also, the fact that the Conservatives want to have an EU referendum, like, I think it's good that we're in the EU. I think that's one of our best things, and that if we were out of the EU, we'd obviously economic crash, we'd be isolated in Europe. Like, most of our allies we'd cut off if ever it came to war or anything like that. And the EU have done so much for our country, like no discrimination by the employers. That means that they can't discriminate in you based on your sexual orientation, your gender, your race, that you get paid maternity leave, you get sick leave, and those are all things that we rely on, that we need. And so I'm just very worried for the next 5 years, and I'm worried about what's going to happen. But until next week, goodbye.